Like I said, welcome everyone. My name is Juan Jimenez, and I'm here from Phoenix House representing the prevention team. With us today, we have Claudia, Steven, Julian, and myself, Juan. Our topic today is going to be the synthetic drugs, and it's a two-part series. So in order to fully understand the topic, please join us next week also that connects in conjunction with this presentation. So like I said, we have the Phoenix House prevention team today, Claudia, Steven, Julian, and myself, Juan, and we comprise a dynamic team with over 10 years of combined field experience and as substance abuse counselors. Just a quick background of Phoenix House, who we are. We are located in Lakeview Terrace here in the San Fernando Valley. We are a nonprofit organization that is located in San Fernando Valley, and all of us have an in-depth residential background. Phoenix House offers mental health services, outpatients, intense substance abuse with intervention support services, and wraparound services. We will touch base at the end on how those programs work and how you could contact us. We'll also give our information. So without further ado, let's introduce this week's topic. Synthetic drugs. Synthetic drugs being in a very, it's a very dynamic. We're going to condense all the information into two-part series. So let's start a little bit with the outline of what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about what are synthetic drugs, their names, some of their chemical components, designer drugs, what they go about, the Analog Act. So we're going to bring in a little bit more of the legislation that's stopping the sales and why these spices and synthetic drugs end up in some stores. The health effects, and we're also going to connect it with bath salts because they do correlate in conjunction, and their street names. Their health effects and seeking help. We're going to talk a little bit more, some phone numbers we're going to give you that you could find more resources, and also how to start the conversation with individuals that do find themselves in substance abuse. So to start our presentation, we're going to watch this short video that gives us a couple information on synthetic drugs to introduce the topic. And then we're going to start talking about the synthetic drugs and the designer drugs. So let's play the video.
This is not your mother's soap powder. If parents want to refresh their drug dictionary, bath salts are a catch-all phrase for synthetic stimulants, similar to methamphetamine. Sold on store shelves with names like Ivory Snow, bath salts are anything but innocent.
It causes people to become violent. And so there have been deaths by people taking them and deaths related to people being attacked by someone on bath salts.
A concoction of man-made chemicals that can cause heart attack or stroke as vital signs skyrocket.
You can have blood pressures above 200. You can have a temperature well above 103, 104, 105. Your heart rate can go into the 160s, 180s.
Here's the 411 on bath salts. It typically comes in a packet the size of a moist towelette. Instead of bath salt, it may be labeled plant feeder, insect repellent, even stain remover.
As long as they label that it wasn't meant for human consumption, they could sell them.
Synthetic drugs are a moving target, meaning their ingredients are constantly changing. It makes it virtually impossible to determine long-term effects.
Just taking it once led people with permanent brain damage and Parkinsonism. And because all these chemists just keep playing around with the structure, the next time you buy a package, it might be something completely different.
A high-risk high there is little doctors can do when it shows up at the ER.
You can't detox a system. It's not something that you can dialyze or give them charcoal to get out of their system because it's already in their bloodstream.
The influence lasts 4 to 6 hours. The effects can last a lifetime. For Lee Memorial Health System, I'm Amy Osher.
So now that we have seen that short clip, let's really take the time to dive into this subject. When we talk about synthetic drugs, it's important to mention that they are also known as what other people call designer drugs. Basically, they are drugs that have been chemically modified from illegal substances in an attempt to mimic the effects of the original illicit drug. So basically, they are copies of illegal drugs, and they're usually made in laboratories. The issue is that they're composed from man-made chemicals rather than the general ingredients.
There's actually a lot of confusion on their legality. We're going to touch a little bit. The physician said that they were legal, they just had to be labeled not for human consumption. I believe he might be misinformed on this, and we'll talk a little bit about that on the next coming up slides.
So now we're going to introduce the spice synthetic marijuana, and Stevie's going to introduce that topic. Go ahead, Steven.
Thank you guys for that information, and that is correct. My name is Steven. So now we're going to be talking about spice, or what is also considered as synthetic marijuana. So spice or synthetic marijuana, it's basically a mixture of herbs and spices that are sprayed with unknown and harmful chemicals. So this is what basically makes spice so dangerous. The chemicals sprayed on are intended to simulate THC, which is the mind-altering ingredient found in actual marijuana. Spices also often falsely advertised or labeled as safe, natural, and legal highs in order to get the consumer to try the product. So they label them that way to entice the consumer, like this is a healthier option for me as opposed to doing whatever I was doing before. So the truth is they are technically not legal and are definitely not natural or safe. Uh, we're gonna we're gonna go over why they're not safe. Um, so basically, imagine putting a blindfold on and not having any idea what you're about to consume. It could be a plate of, say, your favorite food, or it could be a plate of toxic chemicals. Would you risk it? I mean, in a sense, I wouldn't. But that's the risk that individuals take when they use spice. Since there is no regulation when it comes to producing spice, you never know how much of the chemical you will get in each batch. We saw in the video the doctor basically talking about how they make them. There's they basically what they're doing is they're spraying this chemical. It can be, this time around they sprayed it maybe, for instance, 5 seconds. Next time they're going to spray it 10 seconds. There's no real control to it. There's no regulation. So that's why it's definitely dangerous when it comes to consuming it, because you don't know the amount of chemicals that you're going to be consuming when you do consume the spice.
And then a little bit of how the video was talking about, right, Steven? That, what you buy today is not the same thing, even though it might have the same label that is sold maybe the next day, we were like the next week, right? That's why the potency and all these weird effects come out, right?
Correct, because they're like we said, it comes down to the regulation. There's no regulation on it. So definitely what you're getting today or in this batch might be something completely different, a week or 2 weeks from now, even though it has the same label or the same picture, the same design, or it looks the same. It can be something completely different because it is synthetic and there's no regulation behind it. Thank you, Juan. So moving along to the next slide, we are going to go over the street names when talking about spice. So I can give you guys a quick couple seconds to take a picture of the street names here, but I'm going to go over some of the most common ones. So when you see spice or the packaging, most of the time you're going to see like the K2s, Mr. Happy, which is at the very, very bottom right-hand corner. That's how it's packaged in that little rainbowish type packaging with the happy face. You're going to see Bliss, Black Mamba. These are some of the most common. But you're also going to see Scooby Snacks. So I think it seems like the name Scooby Snacks was used to entice a younger demographic to consume this particular product. It's definitely brings back, for me, it brings back memories when I was a child. um And I believe at that point, like the curiosity aspect of it comes into play. So as an individual who was a fan of Scooby Snacks, it could definitely entice you to say, oh, you know what, let me just try the Scooby Snacks. So definitely the packaging and the name, it's a huge thing when it comes to spice.
And they always make
So
these packages are very attractive, like the Scooby snack picture you could see there, right, Stephen?
yeah, absolutely. Even the Mr. Smiley one. I mean, you see that's between, black, white, silver wrappers, you see the Scooby Snacks and the Mr. Smiley, you're most likely your eyes are gonna be generally attracted towards the Scooby Snacks and the Mr. Smiley because of the packaging.
Yeah, especially if you're younger, you're gonna look for bright colors. You're gonna look for cartoon characters. Um, I know that there's a problem with a lot of middle schoolers that are using spice, and also because spice is illegal, the sellers who are selling it are already breaking the law. And if they're breaking the law by selling this substance, then I would imagine that it's probably not so much of a stretch to break the law and sell this to a minor. A lot of this comes down to sort of like the morality of the people who are selling these objects or who are selling these substances, but they're already selling an illicit substance. They're already selling something dangerous. I don't personally think it's much of a stretch to imagine that they have any strong feelings about selling this to a minor.
Yeah, you're totally right, Julian. I mean, it definitely, even as a minor, like now, I know, for instance, there was a Scooby Doo movie that came out not too long ago. So I know that Scooby Doo, in a sense, is being watched by the generation after us, and they could be attracted to it just because of the name. And it's definitely, I would agree that that would attract them to try it and maybe stand outside of a smoke shop or wherever these things are sold at this moment, and just say, hey, can you give me a pack of Scooby Snacks? I'll give you an extra $5-10, and
Mhm.
definitely it would be a way where they can obtain the product and definitely use it.
Yeah, just these being available in local smoke shops or local liquor stores or local whatever store. I mean, it's really is a hazard to public health.
Absolutely. So in the next slide, we will go over the health effects on the body. Thank you, Juan.
No problem.
I'm sorry. That one's correct, but there was a correction that was made. I'm sorry about that, guys. So this is the effects on the body, not on the mind. So it's gonna be so you're gonna see nausea and vomiting, heavy sweating, high blood pressure, heart attack, convulsions. You're gonna see strokes and even seizures. Personally, these are all things I would not want to have happen to me, um, but unfortunately, it does. These are the effects that you would obtain from using this drug. So myself, unfortunately, as a substance abuse counselor, I had witnessed a few times when individuals actually would admit to using spice. And they would tell us, like, hey, the reason why I use spice is because most of the time it's either on probation or they have to take some sort of drug test, and spice isn't detected on most drug tests. So that was their reasoning why they would use spice. But using spice or whatever they use, they would end up having some sort of seizure. So basically that's kind of the some of the effects that would happen on the body. In the next slide, Juan, these are actually the effects on the mind. So unresponsive, hallucinations, loss of consciousness, psychosis, delusions, extreme anxiety. I know we've all seen some sort of news article in the past where it talks about spice and the effects. But as you guys can see to the right, you're going to see a picture of an individual who is under the influence of spice, and definitely he looks like he's um it could be he's passed out, he lost consciousness, he's unresponsive. Definitely these things, and it's very dangerous, especially him being out in public. I can only imagine a million things happening at this point where he could possibly, if you have a wallet or a phone, these things could definitely be taken from you, or who knows, you know, it's such a dangerous situation when you're unresponsive, or you lose your consciousness at that point, that you it might even lead to death at that point. So definitely these are some of the effects on the mind when it comes to using spice.
Definitely. Thank you, Stephen. So now I'm going to introduce our synthetic cathinones or bath salts addictive. And these connect closely to spice because they're usually sold almost at the same stand. You know, they'll have the bath salts almost in the same packaging as the spices themselves. And there was a government agency. Now, when they test these chemicals, they usually test them because of contraband that they captured. So all the chemicals that are used on spices, like the video and we were talking about earlier, they say that they do change constantly. But they did a quick scientific research on it if they are addictive. In this lab study that they made with lab rats, they showed that these animals, once introduced to the synthetic bath salt, the cathinones, they would self-administer. So they would, you know, set them up in a cage with food and bath salt, and after a couple exposures, they would choose the food, administering the synthetic cathinones over the food. And that's, you know, a basic correlation to how addictive they are in could be in the same human demeanor. Obviously we can't do a test with humans, it's unethical. So lab rats is the next scientific study that can be followed accurately. One of the parts that creates an addictive process is because of the withdrawals of the bath salts. So for example, depression, anxiety, tremors, problem sleeping, which is one of the major ones that you will sometimes see in the news, these extreme cases where individuals have, in essence, lost their minds. That's how the media covers it. And that's because they haven't slept. So imagine, you know, if you haven't gone 24, 48 hours without sleep. Myself, I get a little cranky. Even my team members know that. And just imagine if you haven't slept for 4 to 5 days and your state of mind where it would be. So that would induce paranoia, anxiety. And so that's where those extreme cases that you've seen in the media have come about, connected to bath salt and spices because they both have the same withdrawals. So a little bit how Stephen was talking about earlier, as residential counselors, we did witness the side effects firsthand on how the youth that we took care of had these long-term issues. So even after the chemicals had already washed out of their system, you know, between each individual's metabolism is different. Some individuals would be clean after 30, 60 days because their special tests to even detect these bath salts, they change constantly. So it's not just like a little marijuana test, it's an in-depth test. These effects would prolong, they would stay with them. And, you know, the kids actually knew that it was induced because the bath salts or, you know, the K2 spices that were, that had been used. And a little bit more on what are they commonly known as bath salts, of course. And these stimulants come from a cat plant, which is a Middle Eastern and East Africa plant where people chew it as leaves for mild stimulant. Now, when they've made synthesized these leaves, made the fake version out of it, it's the potency, it varies. Now, these unregulated psychoactive mind-altering substances have no legitimate medical use at all, and are designed to copy the effect of controlled substances. And these amphetamines are designed to be the cheaper alternative or substitutes for other stimulants such as amphetamines and cocaine. These products, mostly sold, contain synthetic cathinones also instead of MDMA. So it's definitely a concoction that individuals come up just to make a quick dollar. And because it's so cheap, the demand is there. So now we're going to have Claudia introduce a little bit more on why users keep using it and what they feel. Go ahead, Claudia.
Okay.
And that's so
All right.
caring than most webinars would be. So.
All right, a little technical difficulty there. Go ahead, Claudia.
Thanks, Juan. So we've heard that they're dangerous and we've heard a lot of the truth, but this brings us to the big question. Why do people use bath salts in the first place? So there are several factors that can influence bath salt use. Bath salts can make the user feel a sense of euphoria, making the user feel happy. They can also cause an increased wakefulness or concentration, as well as hallucinations. It has been reported that bath salts can also cause an elevated sex drive, talkativeness, and what users call a rush. So the next slide will cover the concerning health issues associated with bath salt use and overall health. So some short-term health effects from using bath salts are an increased heart rate, chest pain, high blood pressure, hypothermia, which causes an elevated body temperature, as well as excessive sweating, pupil dilation, vessel constriction, reduced appetite, and possible muscle spasm or tremors, as well as seizures. So if you pay attention, you start to notice that the short-term health effects already start to outweigh the reasons to why somebody would even use bath salts in the first place. So moving along, we'll discuss what higher doses can cause. So when we discuss additional health effects on bath salts, we really start to realize that they can lead to very dangerous outcomes. Higher doses of bath salts can lead to serious behavioral and psychiatric effects, such as severe panic attacks, psychosis, and where a person might experience hallucinations as well as delusions at a more frequent rate. Other possible health effects can be paranoia, agitation, insomnia, irritability, and severe violent behavior. So as I mentioned, you really start to see that the health effects are on a more extreme level, and we start to see that that's why they are dangerous to the user. The following slide will demonstrate a preview of some of the health effects that I have mentioned today. We start to see that the risks heavily outweigh any reason to why somebody would want to use bath salts.
And then this video summarizes basically everything we've been talking about in a different perspective.
There's only one thing harder than keeping stupid things from happening to people, and that's keeping people from doing stupid things to themselves. You've probably heard about bath salts. Not the kind for bathing, but the kind that's making people do bad crap, crazy stuff all over the place, like climbing up telephone poles and jumping into traffic, or killing your neighbor's goat while wearing lingerie. Those are things that actually happen. But the important question is why? And also, why? Bath salts are an amphetamine-like drug that got their start in the UK as a club drug, basically a cheap alternative to ecstasy. They've only become a problem in the United States in the past couple of years. In 2011, over 6,100 emergencies involving bath salts were reported by poison control centers, up from 303 cases in just 2010, just a year before. Suddenly, emergency rooms all over the country have been seeing people who snorted or smoked or injected or ate something that made them act so psychotic that even large doses of sedatives couldn't calm them down. Some of these people could only be knocked out by general anesthesia. Symptoms included fevers up to 107 degrees Fahrenheit, along with extreme paranoia, dangerously high blood pressure, and heart rates and blood toxicity bordering on kidney failure. These drugs, which have also been marketed as plant fertilizer, incense, or cleaning products, contain a group of synthetic stimulants called substituted cathinones. Cathinone is an organic stimulant found in a plant called khat that's native to the Middle East and East Africa, and it's a dangerous and illegal drug. Most bath salts use one of two main substitutes, mephedrone or methylene dioxypyrovalerone, which, because of it being really long, is generally just called MDPV. As with drugs like cocaine and meth, these substitutes stimulate the central nervous system while messing with one of our most beloved neurotransmitters, dopamine, the chemical that our brain squirts out to reward us when we do something good for our survival, like eating food or having sex. The more dopamine our neurons get, the better we feel, for a little while at least. But in a person's brain, the synthetic cathinones found in bath salts combine the effects of both cocaine and meth at the same time. On one hand, they block the reabsorption of excess dopamine that's floating around among your neurons, just like coke does. On the other hand, they boost the production of even more dopamine, like meth does. Now, with the brain drowning in dopamine, it becomes so overstimulated, some bath salts highs, or hells as it were, can go on for days, and your brain can't get a break. And if you've ever even gone a day without sleeping, you know how crazy that can make you. So add that to paranoia, panic attacks, mood swings, and you too might start stabbing goats. At this point, the main ingredients of most bath salts have been banned in at least 41 states, but bath salt cookers, just like crystal meth cookers, are trying to get around the law by concocting different but similar chemicals that have the same effect. Basically, inventing new cathinone substitutes. That means that in addition to destroying people's brains, hearts, and lives, these drug makers are using the users as human guinea pigs for a profit. Fantastic. So seriously, you guys, I know that this is not the target audience for these drugs, but don't do drugs, and most especially don't do new drugs that nobody knows what they do, because you never know what's gonna make you, like, go eat your neighbor's dog. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow. Fascinating, but also scary and unfortunate that we had to cover this topic. If you want to keep getting smarter with us, you can go to youtube.com.
And just a little bit about the video. It's a very interesting, scary part where it says that individuals that have used or under the influence of these bath salts or spices need general anesthesia just to, settle down. So it's definitely a potent chemical that, its effects on the body is intense. So we're going to talk about now a little bit more of the legality and how the federal government is actually using legislation to stop the production and covering any the manufacturing these substances. And we're going to introduce you with Julian. Julian, go ahead.
Yeah, so actually a lot of these substances have been around since about the 1980s. They were a massive problem back then. That's when they were first called designer drugs. The federal government passed what's called the Synthetic Analog Act, or the Federal Analog Act. And basically what that means is that anything that has the effects or is similar to any sort of Schedule 1 drug is already illegal before it's even made. So before it's made, it's already illegal if you're making a substance that's going to try to copy the highs of whatever illegal substance. In California specifically, the California Health and Safety Code, HSC Division 10, the Controlled Substances Act, is what makes it illegal in the state of California. So they are illegal both on a state level and on a federal level. If you look down, there's also cited United States v. Forbes. So in 1992, it was also illegal to make them and sell them, even if they are labeled not for human consumption. Because in 1992, the government need only prove the compound is either substantially similar or chemically similar to a classified control substance, or had substantially similar effects to a classified control substance. That means that all analogs are illegal, all designer drugs are illegal. Anything that is similar to opiates, is similar to marijuana, is similar to any kind of drug is not legal, even if it's labeled not for human consumption. There's been a lot of sort of misinformation, because this is not like common knowledge. But all of these substances are not legal at all. So I just wanted to clarify that. If you do find sort of a shop selling these substances, maybe a local liquor store, maybe a local smoke shop or something like that, you can contact your local representative, and then they can guide you on what to do from there. But none of these substances are legal at all, even if they're labeled not for human consumption.
Thank you, Julian. And with this, we're going to talk about a little something different. That's seeking help. And we have provided with you two phone numbers, one a general line that has a huge catalog of information regarding help, and that's the SAMHSA National Helpline. It's a confidential, free uh, from public health agencies to find substance use treatment and information. They keep your information confidential. You don't have to, give your name or anything until, obviously you call the residential or facility that's going to help you. So definitely it's an excellent resource. We also have Phoenix House of California. We do provide community-based organization that helps the youth, and we also have adult residential services. So definitely these two phone numbers, you can visit our website or the SAMHSA's National Helpline is also a good resource. Now, changing gears, I wanted to talk to you about something a little more different, and that's seeking help, but on the side of how to open the conversation with someone that's using substances, or you expect, or you kind of have a notion that they're using, and how to open that weird dialogue with someone. It's a little awkward, I would feel like, but here are a couple tips that we've put together, and it kind of makes sense to kind of open that dialogue. The first one is, hey, I want to check in with you because you haven't seen yourself lately. I think that's one of the best forms of opening that dialogue with someone that might need the help, or maybe you're just trying to find out if they need help. Another one is, I've been worried about you lately, for someone that you care for. Excellent opening statement. Or, hey, I noticed you've been drinking a lot lately, and I'm wondering how you're doing. It's excellent way to open a conversation without, giving any, questioning them why they're doing it. And another one, once you started the conversation, you could continue the dialogue. Hey, when did you first start feeling like this? Another one is, do you feel like you have a drug or drug use or drinking problem? And one of the last ones that we've used as substance abuse counselors is, what can I do best to support you right now? Sometimes just the listening ear of a person that, wants to talk. It's the best form to start the dialogue, and, they'll open up. Hey, how can you help them? You can reach out and helping them, giving them phone numbers or a website. They'll give you, as you go along with the dialogue, how to help them. Some individuals now might be ready for help, but you just giving them the information shows that you care. So definitely a strong, we've put together this quick tip, to kind of open the dialogue and how to continue it without giving that guilt. You don't want to open and start pointing the finger, you're doing this and that. So
Yeah,
definitely,
one.
yeah,
I
go ahead,
think
Steve.
definitely setting up an area where confidentiality is brought into place. Just letting them know, like, you can confide in me, and I'm not gonna take this information and tell the world, tell your family, tell everyone about what you're doing. It's more about letting them know that you're more concerned about their well-being, as opposed to letting them or wanting to get information out of them.
Correct. And that dialogue process. So here are references. We've used a lot of government entities, to provide the information, extracting it from their servers and their websites to bring about the presentation that we have today. And now we're going to have Stephen that's going to explain a little bit more on the Phoenix House services that we have.
Thank you, Juan. Yeah, so at the top left, you're going to see outpatient services. So we do provide outpatient substance abuse services for adolescents. If you know anyone or just have any questions, we can definitely answer those questions for you, or we can link you with Lolita Otley. She is the program coordinator for the outpatient substance abuse program. So they are still doing, even though it's COVID-19 time, and we're in this era of virtual learning and doing things through a virtual platform, we're still engaging we're still engaging the youth. We're providing services through our mental health program as well, our outpatient mental health program. If you guys know anyone that's looking for mental health services, we can definitely connect you with Jenny Sanchez or try to answer the questions for you. We also provide wraparound services. With wraparound, though, you would need some sort of referral, either from your DCFS social worker, or your probation officer. So wraparound is basically a team designed to assist a parent or a caregiver with any behavioral issues. So you get this amazing team that comes in and they provide these services to you. So we're still operating the wraparound team, even though, like I said, it is COVID-19 times. They're still operating and still providing these services to families in our community. And then MAT services, you know, if you guys know anyone that's suffering from alcohol or opioid withdrawals, and you know, MAT services might be the best option for them, you can definitely call us at Phoenix House and we can make an appropriate referral to an agency that can provide the MAT services.